namely that antidepressants often do not do what they promise and are in fact causing harm to many.
Dr. Steve Hotze is suing over Obamacare's employer mandate.
It's time for a wellness revolution. Brought to you by Hotze Health and Wellness Center. Honest discussion on maintaining health and wellness naturally to enjoy a better quality of life.
He's the doctor fighting to let you keep your doctor.
Now, Dr. Stephen Hotze.
Welcome to Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. I'm Stacey Banfield here with Dr. Stephen Hotze, founder of the Hotze Health and Wellness Center. If you haven't already done so, be sure to download our podcasts. You can go to hotzepodcast.com. That's Hotze podcast.com. Really good show for you today. Lots of great information. We have got Cindy Krueger on. She is the founder of Preservian, and she is so knowledgeable about all things toxic. Toxins are environment, detoxing, what you can do about it. We're so happy to have her as a guest today, aren't we, Dr. Hotze?
We're very pleased. Cindy's been a longtime friend. She lives in Tampa, Florida, where many of my wife's family live. So it's always good to connect with another, is it Tampamanian?
Floridian?
Oh, yeah, Tampanian. They call us all things here.
That's funny.
Well, Cindy Krueger has a master in public health, and she's the founder and president of Preservian Incorporated. She's been helping people achieve optimal health for over 3 decades, and she specializes in lifestyle protocols and strategies for individuals as well as for corporations, for the people in corporations. Her columns and her websites and books are based on the latest research and scientific literature. She's the author of Do You Know What You Don't Know About Women's Health Issues? That continues to inspire readers even to this day. She's been published in numerous journals, including the Wall Street Journal, Tampa Bay Business Journal, Townsend Newsletter, Maddox Business Report, and many others. She's a contributing editor in Food and Nutrients in Disease Management. And that's a medical textbook produced by Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. And for the past 15 years, she's dedicated her writings to the hundreds of readers through Preservian Inc. So we're glad to have Cindy with us. Cindy, today our topic is going to be toxins. Toxins in the environment. And those of you that have listened to my other YouTube videos and my podcast know that this is a big part of the treatment regimen here at Hotze Health and Wellness Center, where we believe that you need a doctor and a staff of professionals to coach you onto a path of health and wellness naturally, without pharmaceutical drugs, so that as you mature, you enjoy a healthy life. You're full of energy, enthusiasm, you got vim and vigor, you got get up and go. You're looking forward to getting up and making something happen. You're thinking clearly. You don't have joint muscle aches and pains. You feel great, and you're a real contributing member to your family life and to your community. And that's why everybody should feel, no matter what age you are, you should feel like $1,000,000. And you can. But one of the key things that prevents people from feeling well is that their bodies are toxic. They're toxic from several sources. They're toxic from the petrochemicals in the environment that are in what we breathe, eat, drink, slather on our bodies. Women are particularly bad about this. Men don't tend to do this like women do, but women use all kinds of lotions. And I was looking on one of my wife's lotions about 2 years ago, and I looked on the back of it, and it was full of petrochemicals. I said, honey, what is this? And she said, well, that's my body lotion. I said, baby, you're poisoning yourself. Don't you know at our pharmacy, at Hotze Pharmacy, we have all kind of natural products for skin healing? She goes, I don't know. It's kind of like the cobbler's kids have no shoes, so my wife slathered all this stuff on her body. Got her to stop that, of course. But this is a problem because the petrochemicals are toxins, and they're hormone disruptors, and they adversely affect the power plants in your cells called the mitochondria that prevent them from producing adequate amounts of electrical energy that drive all the biochemical processes in your cells, making your organs healthy. So when you're toxic, the mitochondria produce low levels of electrical energy, and you're, instead of high voltage with bright lights, you're a brownout, and your life feels like a brownout. Other things that cause problems, of course, are the metals, the aluminum, the lead, the mercury, and we're going to talk about these with Cindy in a minute. Besides that, it's recurrent infections that people have, the toxins that come from infections, sinus infections, bronchial infections, any kind of infection releases toxins that make the body toxic. And those can adversely affect all your organs, particularly they can affect the coronary arteries and cause you to have coronary artery disease. On top of that, a high sugar diet, a diet high in simple carbohydrates, pizza, pasta, bread, cookies, cakes, cereal, all those things create inflammatory chemicals in your body that adversely affect your health and cause toxic changes in your power plants in your cells, the mitochondria. So we're going to talk about these 4 areas of toxic problems that we have. And here's what happens, Cindy, and I'm kind of dominating things now. You're our guest, but I just want to remind our listeners that those toxins in your system, all the ones we've just talked about, adversely affect your production of energy in your cells. So you develop symptoms. You gain weight. You become fatigued. You can't think clearly. Your body temperature is low. You can't sleep well. You have mood swings. You get joint and muscle aches and pains. Your bowels aren't right. They're either sluggish or else you got loose stools. You get puffy, pale. Your hair falls out. If you're a woman, you may have problems with menstrual irregularities, or you may have problems with infertility. You can have a host of problems that develop as a result of these toxins, and you end up going to the doctor, and he does routine blood tests, doesn't ever check you for any toxins in your body, which we all have. You don't really need to check. Everybody has got toxins in their body. Volatile chemicals that come from petrochemicals, everybody does. And instead of addressing the underlying nutrient deficiencies that will help you detoxify, they give you more toxins. They give you drugs, which are toxins, which are poisons, which make you more toxic, so you get sicker quicker and you don't get well. So we're going to talk about the problems, the toxins that we have in our environment. We're going to talk about what can be done to help you detoxify to get your body healthy. So, Cindy, let's talk about the petrochemicals first. Go ahead.
Well, I think you've said it quite well. I mean, they are everywhere. I mean, in the air, in our foods, everywhere we turn, in our medications. They're excipients, these insidious products, if you will, and they are just everywhere. And the problem with the petrochemicals too, like all other toxins, is that because they are everywhere, there's this cumulative effect that occurs on the human body. And like you had mentioned, the manifestation of other chronic illnesses and diseases that occur because of this. And we could talk about petrochemicals, but my goodness, there are so many other things. Of course, the plastics,
right,
and the cleaning products, and like you'd mentioned, the beauty products, the foods, particularly. I like to talk a lot about the foods because people are just terribly malnourished. And the only way we can clean up the human body, of course, is through a much better, robust nutritional program. There's good news and bad news. The good news is that our bodies are truly resilient, and they have the extraordinary ability to recuperate, restore, and recover with the proper protocols. The bad news is that, of course, these toxins and these chemicals are ubiquitous. They are everywhere. And so unless you have a little bit of knowledge, like you talked about Jeannie, your wife not knowing and enjoying probably a lovely, fragrant smell to her cream and thinking that this is terrific, little does she know that these are horrific. And it's not that one product is so bad, of course it is, but it's on top of everything else that she's exposed herself to. So the average person just doesn't realize, they have no idea whatsoever that they're exposed to these toxins. another particular toxin.
Let me interrupt you. You sent over a list here that I'd like to just read to our listening audience. Think about where you get toxins. You get them from gasoline and diesel fumes, and you get them in the various chemicals that are disguised as fragrances in your perfume and your hairspray. You know, the colognes don't have to. For some reason, the FDA, I don't know, there's some kind of law that allows colognes and perfumes and hairsprays and all that not to have to list all the ingredients they put in them. You don't know what's in them. Air fresheners, like you might hang in your car or put in your bathroom. Fire retardant chemicals in new cars. You know, you get in a new car and it's got the new car smell. Well, that's all chemicals. If you can smell a chemical, it's in your bloodstream. If it's in your bloodstream, it's in your cells. If it's in your cells, it's making your cells toxic. What about varnishes, artificial flooring material, bedding? You know, they've got on the kids' beds, now they got this fire retardant, which is chemicals, which outgas, which can cause kids, get into the brains of kids and can cause a host of health problems. What about when you take your clothes to the dry cleaners? The dry cleaning fluid is a chemical. I say, and we oftentimes will hang our clothes out in the garage for a day to breathe so we don't bring those into the house. Drywall, solvents, chlorine, pesticides, insecticides in your house are neurotoxic. What about, we talked about the cosmetics, the shampoos, the lotions, the nail polish remover, hairspray. Walk into a woman's store where they get their hair fixed, and or
get
a nail salon. Oh my goodness, what do you smell? Chemicals, canned foods lined with biphenyl BPA.
Another one that most people don't really realize is a mattress. Mattresses have been forced by law now to contain fire retardant chemicals, and so any mattress that you buy, unless it's an organic wool material of sorts, it will emit this chemical in your home every time you sit on the bed. You can imagine every time you sit and put pressure on this bed, these toxins are being emitted. And people don't know this, and I have personal experience with this about 5 years ago, having bought a mattress, and the bedroom in our condo smelled so bad, I was mortified, and I had the doors open and the fans on. I sprayed for 2 weeks the top of that bed with vinegar and water to get that toxic smell out. It finally dissipated some, but even so, it's still there. And your average person has no idea that that's what they're being exposed to.
And these chemicals are hormone disruptors. Yes, they're what we call xenoestrogens. They mimic the estrogen molecule, and they adversely affect the production and the utilization of your natural occurring hormones. That's why many people have hormonal problems and hormonal difficulties and even infertility. A lot of this is related to the chemicals to which they're exposed in their environment. Let's talk about fluoride for a minute. Cindy, you're on.
Oh, well, again, talk about the controversy of fluoride from the American Dental Association and, of course, all the cities and states across America that believe that the reason why kids are still having problems with their teeth today is because they don't have enough fluoride in the water supply. Of course, we know study after study confirms what fluoride does to our children, not only from a cellular perspective, but even their teeth, the fluorosis that occurs and the yellowing of their teeth, and just their behavioral changes that occur because of this exposure to fluoride. And, of course, now we have many toothpaste that we can purchase without fluoride in them. Of course, you've got to watch and read these labels carefully because they have other junk in them as well. So you have to be very careful. But this is something that it's difficult to avoid fluoride anywhere you go. Of course, I recommend to people to install a reverse osmosis system in their home. Instead of buying, the small plastic bottles from the big box stores, heavens knows how long they've sat on pallets in the hot sun in Texas and Florida. And, of course, you talk about the xenoestrogens and how that is floating around in the waters and in the plastics that these waters sit in. So, again, I always say, Dr. Hotze, we have to pull people back, go back to nature. Go back to the beginning of time and when things were closer to nature and we weren't exposed to all of these horrible toxins. And I know you mentioned about these petrochemicals and such, and that we're finding that, of course, there's a direct relationship between these herbicides and pesticides and people who have their homes sprayed for insects every month, especially in Texas and Florida. There's a direct relationship to Parkinson's disease. And we know that these autoimmune conditions are just growing exponentially in this country. Our immunity is being attacked to the point where, of course, with autoimmune conditions, our own bodies begin to attack particular organs. And again, you're talking about modern medicine's solution is to add more chemicals with a drug. And we know and we see that it fails miserably. That is a very, very poor intervention, and frankly, at the end of the day, makes people worse.
Right. I want to make another comment about fluoride. Fluoride is a halogen. Iodine is a halogen. Chlorine is a halogen. And halogens are part of the periodic table. Iodine is needed to make thyroid hormones. And fluoride in the water competes with the iodine, as does chlorine in the water, competes with iodine and depresses normal thyroid function. More importantly, fluoride poisons the enzyme inside your cell that converts T4, the inactive thyroid hormone or the prohormone, to the active hormone T3 in the cell. There's an enzyme called deiodinase. It cleaves off one of the iodine molecules. T4 is thyroid with 4 iodine molecules. T3 is thyroid with 3 iodine molecules. T3 is active. It's what activates the power plants. The mitochondria enable them to produce energy. And fluoride poisons the enzyme that cleaves the iodine atom off T4 to make T3. So people that have fluoride in their water are poisoning their thyroid, their ability to utilize the active thyroid hormone, which is going to downregulate the production of energy in the mitochondria, the power plants within the cells, and make them feel fatigued. That's one of the reasons in America we have a ubiquitous problem with hypothyroidism that goes undiagnosed by most physicians because they treat blood tests and they don't listen to the patient's symptoms. I believe anybody who has the classical symptoms of hypothyroidism, fatigue, difficulty with weight, cold body temperature, inability to think clearly, poor sleep, mood swings, irregular cycles, joint muscle aches and pains, fibromyalgia, stomach disorders, all these things, and plus infertility problems and irregular menstrual cycles, these all can be related to hypothyroidism within the cells, which you can't measure for in the blood. You can have thyroid in your blood, but if you have fluoride in your system, it's poisoning your ability to utilize the thyroid hormone and activate it. So fluoride, and now, by the way, 70% of the cities in America, and across America, 70% of the drinking water has fluoride in it. And fluoride comes from what? It comes from the fertilizer industry. Back in the 50s, they were spewing out fluoride out of the fertilizer plants, and it was spreading around the fertilizer plants in several mile radius, and it was killing off the animals and the product, the crops and everything. And so then I don't think it was called the EPA at that time, the Environmental Protection Agency, but the federal government came in and said they had to scrub and they couldn't put fluoride out. And they had to get rid of the fluoride, which is a toxin. If you go to the MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet, just Google it and Google fluoride or fluorine, and you'll find out it's highly toxic. As a matter of fact, on the side of your toothpaste, if you use Crest or any one of the other common toothpaste, there's a warning box that says if you ingest any more of the toothpaste, and swallow it that you brush your teeth with, immediately call poison control or contact your physician. Why would you put something like fluorine, which is a toxin, in toothpaste? And they say, by the way, anybody 6 and under should not be using this toothpaste. That's in the warning box on the label. So you need to get a non-fluoridated toothpaste, a toothpaste that doesn't have fluoride. We use Spry here at Hotze Vitamin Store. We sell Spry, and there's no warning label on the box. Why? Because there's no fluoride in the toothpaste. The other thing you need to do, because it's in the water, as Cindy mentioned, get a reverse osmosis. We filter our water coming into the house, and then we turn around and refilter it with a reverse osmosis at the taps in our bar area and in our kitchen, so that we don't have fluoride in our water, and that's very important. In Europe, where they banned fluoride, the population has 16% of the people overweight and 8% of the people obese, just like it was in America before we put fluoride in the water. Back in the early 60s, 16% of the people were overweight, 8% were obese. In America now, 70% of the population is overweight. That means their metabolism is down, and I say the reason it's down is because they got fluoride in the water, and they're hypothyroid. It's poisoning their enzyme that would enable them to make active thyroid hormone. Additionally, we've got 35% of the population obese, and we know that leads to diabetic problems and heart disease. It leads to strokes. It leads to kidney disorders, degenerative arthritis, stomach problems, increased risk of cancer, and a host of other problems when your metabolism is down. That's why I believe anybody who has the signs and symptoms of hypothyroidism deserves a clinical trial of natural desiccated thyroid hormone. So we've talked about fluoride. I mentioned chlorine, which is a problem, and it's in all kinds of products. It's in our water. So you've got to filter your water. And look, you go, well, we drink water out of the bottles from the store. It's got plastic in it. You got plasticizers that leach into the water, and that gets into your system, and that poisons your cells. If you're going to drink water, drink bottled water from an aquifer. One great one here in the country is Mountain Valley water, and they've got it.
And it's in glass bottles.
It's in glass bottles. So you can buy Mountain Valley water, have it delivered to your home in a 5-gallon glass water case. Let's talk about mercury and lead and aluminum, Cindy.
Well, again, that's, that it's starting from in people's mouths with, dental fillings, the mercury, also the aluminum that's in, that we use with cooking, our pots and pans that we're cooking with. Again, this is a constant 24/7, but those particular areas are the greatest exposure to these metals. And oftentimes when people have unresolved health issues, they actually probably should, one of the first things they should do is go to the dentist and have their mouth evaluated whether or not they have any mercury fillings in their mouths, because we're finding that often, and always, that when people have these fillings removed, they begin to see an improvement in their health. And just think, with these mercury fillings, every time you bite down, every single time, some of that mercury is being emitted into the intercellular tissue. And so some people's immunity is strong enough, and their livers are strong enough to be able to manage and excrete these toxins out, but people whose health is compromised to begin with, this can create a major problem. And again, I mentioned earlier about going back to nature and long ago. I think about all these aluminum pots and pans, and they're very inexpensive, and that's why people buy them. But, going back to, I like to think about cast iron, what we used to, our grandmothers and great-grandmothers cooked with cast iron. Instead, and then they got a little bit of iron out of that, and an extra little bonus too. And, going back to that everything has become so convenient, and life is so fast-paced that people are not concerned about the consequences at the moment. And this is why they ignore often all this information that we're discussing today, because they say, well, I'm fine today, I'm okay today, but it changes tomorrow.
It has
and then you find
it does
in your office.
right, and they end up here, and they end up having a cumulative effect. The metals, the heavy metals, the mercury, the lead, the aluminum, cadmium too, get into our system and cause inflammation in your coronary arteries. And that leads to coronary artery disease, plaque buildup, hardening of the arteries where you get calcified arteries. It's one of the major causes, and you've got to detoxify that. Listen, another thing, we talked about pesticides in the home, but why don't we think about this, the pesticides and the herbicides that are sprayed on all the food products across the country and become part of the fabric of that very product that you're eating. That's why it's important to eat organically as best possible. And most major stores now do have organic products. It costs you minimally more. It's a modicum. It's de minimis. But you're going to preserve your health. And what's your health worth? A few pennies extra for organic lettuce or organic broccoli or organic asparagus, as opposed, to buying the ones that are a little bit cheaper, but they're filled with pesticides.
And we just did a podcast on wild salmon versus farm salmon and how toxic farm salmon is.
Right, exactly. So this is where you may need to make some life decisions. You need to do a 180 and take charge of your health, and these are some simple ways to do that. So let's talk about some suggestions we have. What would you suggest, Cindy? What can people do?
Well, just like you had mentioned in regards to the food, which is so very important because people eat every day and so absolutely organic. And again, staying away from the processed foods and the boxed and the packaged foods, because so many chemicals are snuck into these foods. The agri-industry has become masterful at making labels look attractive and healthy when indeed they're really not. So we have to be very careful about that. And of course, shopping the peripheral of the grocery store is going to be the best thing to do. And the challenge, Dr. Hotze, is because even nowadays, particularly with fish, everybody wants salmon, 12 months out of the year. And we say wild salmon, but now even this wild salmon is, quote, being farmed. There are fisheries, and they have these huge nets that are out there in the ocean, and their claim is that, well, they have to control these species, otherwise we will be left without any. We have to be very careful about that, even though they're said that they're wild caught. They may not be. Of course, there's websites that you can buy truly wild salmon from Alaska, and halibut and cod and, cold water fish and the smaller fish that are much, much safer than these larger fish that have lived longer and have had exposure to mercury in the oceans and all the toxins and the junk that's tossed into our oceans. So we've got to be very, very careful there, even with our fish. One of the things, too, I think that that is very valuable is exercise, because exercise enables the body to, if you're doing it enough, to sweat, and sweating is a great natural mechanism for the body to detox itself. Kind of, like a sauna or a steam room or something. But, exercise is so critically important. And another thing, and I know that you talk a lot about this in your clinic there, is consuming high quality supplements and vitamins.
Right.
It's very, very important. If you look on the labels, oh my goodness, the excipients in so many of these vitamins, again, going back to these box stores where you're going to pay, $15 for a fish oil. People are unfortunately creating diminishing returns. So it's very, very important to consume good, wholesome supplements from a good, reliable source. And people need to evaluate their homes. You mentioned about these plug-in deodorizers. And one of the other things that I have to mention I'm so vehement about are these dryer sheets. people who put these dryer sheets in their dryers, their clothes dryers, so they'll have beautiful smelling clothes, it has probably got to be as toxic as glyphosate that is placed on every imaginable fruit and vegetable out there in the farmers'
Which is
community.
dioxin, really.
It's terrible. You could walk the neighborhood and know who's got their dryer on. You can walk outside in a mall, be anywhere,
This is
and you
true.
can smell that clothing. It's offensive.
You can smell the chemicals. That's right.
Well, let me run down a list of some key things you can do. Buy green products. Go online and buy green products, or go to Whole Foods and buy green products that aren't based on petrochemicals for cleaning. When you clean your carpets, use steam clean solution of vinegar and water. Best not to have carpets, really. If you have carpets, have wool carpets rather than synthetic carpets. Get a HEPA filter for your house. Ventilate your home. You know, the home's got to breathe. Open your windows up when the weather's nice. Air out the house. Get the toxins out of the house that are in there. And buy organic food. Go to a store and make sure the food is organic. And also, whenever you buy food, look at labels. I always recommend, if it's in a package, can, or box, don't even read the label. Just don't buy it. Eat real food. Don't eat processed food. And then finally, most importantly, you have to detoxify your body. We don't get the proper vitamins and minerals and nutrients that we need to be healthy. The most important detoxifying vitamin is vitamin C. Human beings don't make vitamin C, nor do primate monkeys, nor do guinea pigs. All the other mammals in God's creation, as a matter of fact, all the other vertebrates, any animal that has a vertebrate makes vitamin C. They make approximately 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C per 25 pounds of body weight. If you weigh 150 pounds, take 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day. If you weigh 200 pounds, take 8,000. And every 25 pounds, add 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. You can take it in capsule form. There's crystal form. We have it here at Hotze Health and Wellness, a crystal form of vitamin C. A teaspoon is 4,000 milligrams. You mix it in a glass of water. And I recommend taking your vitamin C in stages. Take it in the morning, take it at lunch, take it in the afternoon, take it in the evening. Take, depending upon your body weight, the appropriate amount. When you're sick, double it until you get stool intolerance, then back off 80%. It's a wonderful detoxifier. Also, make sure you take magnesium. You need glutathione. Glutathione is a natural detoxifier produced in the body that declines as we age. Take N-acetylcysteine, which help rejuvenate that. Take vitamin D. Take vitamin E. Take vitamin A, and get a good B complex with hefty doses of B vitamins. These are very important for you to enable your body to detoxify the chemicals that are in your body already. And I know they're there. Listen, I did a volatile chemical on myself. It's called a VOH, volatile organic, VOC, volatile organic chemical study in my body. And I had in the 95 percentile of styrene. That comes from styrofoam. Don't drink coffee
out of a
styrofoam cup. And frankly, I haven't drank out of a styrofoam cup for I don't know how many years.
That shows you.
But I did for numerous years, and you can't hardly get styrene out of your body, and it's, of course, not a healthy chemical to have in your body. It can cause a host of problems. So you want to make sure you don't expose yourself to styrofoam cups and all that. If you can, drink out of a paper cup. If you're going to drink coffee, or preferably out of a mug, for crying out loud. Get a mug and have it. I buy a mug when I go to Buc-ee's,
yes,
and I carry that mug in there, and I get my coffee out of that mug. Or if I don't have a mug, I buy a mug. I just don't like to drink coffee out of styrofoam. I think it's very dangerous for you. So those are some things you can do, but you've got to be on a good vitamin and mineral regimen. Why is that? Because these are antioxidants. Your body, when you're full of these chemicals and you're toxic, create free radicals. These are molecules that lack an electron, and they circulate in your body, and they damage cells and create inflammation. The antioxidants neutralize. They carry an extra electron, which is passed off to the free radical to neutralize it, to make it safe so your body can get rid of it. That's very important for you to be on high doses of your vitamins. So magnesium, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin A. It's the ABC and B complex. Make sure you're on your vitamins, and make sure you eat a healthy organic eating program and eat whole foods. That's so critical and so very important. And stay away from the simple carbohydrates as much as possible. Once you learn to eat this way, you're learning to eat to live rather than live to eat. And the most addictive product out there is sugar. And there's a withdrawal when you come off sugar. Sugar to our mitochondria is like newspaper to a fireplace. If your spouse said, "Why don't we start a fire?" You go, "Well, go ahead." And he started throwing newspaper on the fire. It burns up very quickly. And then you keep having to add newspaper to the fire to keep it going. Hey, why don't you just put a log on the fire? That's what good, healthy oils and fats do, and you burn slowly. So we recommend a diet with good oils, eggs, butter, fish oil, olives, avocados. Make sure you get good coconut oil. Make sure you get olive oil. Make sure you get good oils in your body so your body converts from burning sugar to burning fat. When you have a high sugar diet, what's going to happen? You make a lot of insulin. You get insulin resistant. The insulin drives the sugar into fat, and you get fat. And then you get pre-diabetic, and then the doctor throws you on metformin or some other drug, which has been shown to increase your risk of dying of heart disease. They normalize your sugar. They're treating a blood level of sugar, but it leads to an increased risk of death when you take these drugs. Then you get on insulin. And insulin does what? It creates fat. It turns sugar into fat. So you get on insulin, you're going to gain weight. I've got a buddy of mine, he got on insulin, gained 100 pounds in a year. And the doctor said, well, that's just the side effect of insulin. Well, how do you think that affected his diabetes? Not one iota. They kept wanting to give him more insulin. It wasn't until I finally said, you got to change your eating to cut out the carbs, get your weight down. And guess what? Within 7 weeks, we had him off 100 milligrams of insulin a day, got him off all his diabetic drugs, got him off his blood pressure medication. He lost 85 pounds, and he felt so much better. So that's what you need to do. You need to do a 180 and take charge of your health. And I hope this information gives you the challenge and encouragement to do just that. Cindy, thank you for joining us today. Now, if people want to get information about Preservion, tell us, spell it for us, and what's the website?
It's www.preservion.com, PRESERV, like in Victor, ION.com.
It's like preserve with an ION on the end instead of an E. Preserve, PRESERVION.com. And so you can get some great material that Cindy has produced there. Be sure to go there and take a look at her material. Cindy, thank you for joining us today. Cindy Krueger, great friend, great in the health industry, and has helped thousands and thousands of people and corporations get on a path of health and wellness. So thank you, Cindy.
Yes, thank you, Cindy.
And thank you. Stay well.
All right.
We will.
You as well. And if you would like more information on our center and how you can get on a path of health and wellness, first we recommend that you go to Hotze Vitamins. All you have to do is call 1-800-579-6545. That's 1-800-579-6545 to get those vitamins and supplements that Dr. Hotze talked about. One of the lovely ladies at Hotze Vitamins will be more than happy to help you out. And Dr. Hotze, I know you did mention this, but you do have a detox formula as well. I think people would be interested in finding out more about that. You can also go to HotzeVitamins.com. That's HOTZE. Vitamins.com. Well, we hope you learned a lot today here at Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution. And one more thought from Dr. Hotze. Yes, sir.
If you want to rock, you got to detox.
Oh, got to rock, you got to detox. All right, everybody. It's a pleasure having you with us today at Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution.
Information information provided on this radio program is neither intended nor implied to be a substitute for professional medical advice and is not intended to replace the services of a physician, nor does it constitute a doctor-patient relationship. You should not use information from this radio program to diagnose or treat a health problem or disease without consulting with a qualified healthcare provider. If you have or suspect you have an urgent medical problem, promptly contact a professional healthcare provider or call 911. Dr. Hotze's Wellness Revolution radio program advises you to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider prior to starting any new treatment or with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Any application of the recommendations from this radio program is at the listener's discretion.